Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Nurturing Astrology podcast. I'm Dominique Hadamiel, your astrologer and host. I believe astrology can fast-track personal growth, improve lives, and empower parents, and also save relationships, families, and marriages. So on the Nurturing Astrology podcast, I will offer practical guidance for applying astrology to all of these important areas of life. I'll offer insight from my own work, studies, and life experiences, as well as interview experts to bring you stellar wisdom from other professionals to inspire you on your journey. I'm so glad you're here, and I can't wait to get started. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Okay, hi everybody. Welcome back to Nurturing Astrology podcast with Cornelia Hansen here, and our series of talks that we are not necessarily totally focused on parenting. This one is something that everyone can benefit from on a broad scale, because what we're going to talk about today is reframing retrogrades, tough transits, and not so nice natal aspects. Because we know that transit chasing and seeing the things that we're hearing about that are tough transits and challenges coming, everybody freaks out about, right? And everybody's like, so we want to go into how we can approach this in a more positive way and also reframe how we think about these things to be able to better manage them. And so as I was thinking about this topic, I came up with these three key words that I think sort of overview and encompass the main things to remember. And the first one is expectations. Okay, expectations are going to determine the level of intensity and your response. What you're expecting to happen likely happens, right? So expectations are key. The other one is our attitude. It's going to make all the difference in how we feel about it, right? I teach my son that all the time. Doing your homework, whatever it is you have to do and you have to deal with anyway, it's coming whether you like it or not. Your attitude will make all the difference in how you're able to manage it, right? And then that leads into our approach, right? So you'll get out of it what you put into it.
Exactly.
And your approach is, if you are, scared and fearful and like want to hide under a rock, okay, you might avoid some things, but chances are that stuff might come back later, or you're avoiding handling something that is really there to help you move forward on your path. And it has a lot to do with, again, how you see the world. Are you seeing this as an opportunity, or are you, an optimistic about the possibilities of what it can mean, even if it's a tough transit? Or are you seeing it as automatically shit's going to go down, negative something's happening? Like,
and why me?
And why me?
Why is this happening to me?
Why is this happening to me? And what's going to go wrong? What shit's going to hit the fan? Like, I know something's coming down the pike because X, Y, and Z transit is coming. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way, right?
Right. And I think that's basically what your approach to life is in general. If you kind of look at life as, or the glass as half full, rather than looking at the glass as half empty, it colors your view of experience and of life in general.
Yep.
And I've already said, I gave my son a book called, and it has to do with optimistic people live longer and healthier.
Heard of that.
And why is that? I don't know. I guess it's just that you expect good things to happen, and they seem to happen more than if you're expecting bad things to happen.
Yeah, it seems simple, right? But it's not always. I get that, but it is, but I think that's what the importance of understanding your own temperament is, and your own personality and your own, approach to life is. If you tend to be a negative Nancy, then, chances are you're going to automatically expect something negative to happen.
I used to work with a lady like that. Every time we go on a trip with the kids, she'd say, "Oh, it's probably going to rain." I call it being the Eeyore. I used to call her Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, who was always negative. It'll probably rain. We have to be aware of our attitudes towards things. I had to learn that about myself, that I tended to do that. I tended to look at the worst scenario rather than the more positive scenario. So then I started taking a step back and say, no, you're looking at this the wrong way. You need some help. Sometimes I go to my best friend and say, okay, look at this. She says, well, this could mean this too, Oh, yeah, I guess it could.
Yeah.
Start looking for the half full glass.
Yeah. And talk to people who kind of can shed some light in the other way for you. If that's who you are, maybe surround yourself or go have a conversation with that friend that helps you shift perspective, or to feel a little bit more safe about it or confident about whatever you might be going into, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Use your resources. All right, so let's dive into retrogrades first, Cornelia.
Okay.
And so
now I just noticed when I turned on my screen the other day, they have all these news headlines. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, mine always has this person who talks about astrology. Yeah. And so she was talking about this new Mercury retrograde is going to be the devil for some signs.
Oh, God.
Well, she's already planted the seed before it's even happened.
Yep.
That's the wrong way to approach it,
I totally agree. Make retrogrades your friends. They are so necessary. I mean, we want to get off this merry-go-round of life. Sometimes we say, oh, I need a break. Well, if you understand the flow and the energy of retrogrades, it's a chance to slow down. It's a chance to get off and rest if you need to, or reflect and look back and assess, because we're always go, 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 and I love Mercury retrogrades. I look forward to them because I'm like, what? All these things I've been thinking about and talking about and wanting, and I have lists of things I have to do. I'm going to dive into some of that when Mercury goes retrograde, because I know everything's going to slow down.
Right.
And also I tell people, remember that everyone else is also working on their to-do list, right? So if you've been expecting something to come to you, or hear from somebody, or a job, or maybe a correspondence of some sort, or even some money coming back to you, or something like, oh, I got to pay that person, so that person's handling their to-do list, and therefore you're getting something that you've been waiting for.
Right.
So and you have to live your life. It offers a time of reflection so that we can see the bigger picture, the long view, a little bit, get some perspective.
It's a good time to review things. If you're working on something, it's a good time to review things and edit them, because you're working off of Mercury. The other thing about it, I think that a lot of people don't realize, is you can work with a Mercury retrograde by being more aware of your messaging.
Yes.
Somebody tells you something and you think, I don't know, is this what you said? You want to clarify the message so to make sure that you understand it. And when you give out messages, make sure that they understand what you're saying, because we know that Mercury has to do with messages.
Yep.
So you have to kind of look at anything with messaging to see that you're doing it correctly.
Yes.
Don't get sloppy.
Right. And we talk about that with parents all the time, active listening and teaching our kid to repeat back what they heard so that there is clarity and your message is being sent, or the right message is being sent, you're being understood, so during retrogrades, we just have to be more mindful of our messaging and what we're saying. I've noticed typos galore in the last week already. Like, it just happens because you're moving fast and it's saying slow down. You're going to make mistakes.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
The little things happen all the time. And you can plan your downtimes, your life reviews during this time. You know what I mean? But you still have to live your life. I emphatically say you have to live your life no matter what. and not to live them by the retrogrades. It's just more awareness of understanding the nature of the energy we're in. And you can test them. I have been testing retrogrades for years, because I have to live my life and things happen. For example, when we bought our home, we had to buy a washer and dryer. And it was Mercury retrograde at the time. And I was like, oh no. But I needed a washer and dryer, so we bought it. And sure enough, the dryer had a glitch and I had to call. But, they had this cool tech now where you could literally hold your phone. It said, okay, go here to this site, do this thing, and hold your phone up to the dryer. They diagnosed it from the phone. I was like, what is that? Right. But they diagnosed it, realized, oh yeah, this is wrong. We're going to have to bring you a new one. There you go. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, and then 2020, we bought our travel trailer. So excited in February. We've been wanting to buy it for years. And I thought, oh, well, it's finally time. It's not a new idea. It's not a spontaneous out of the blue thing I'm doing. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. So we'll be fine. And Mercury was in its shadow. It wasn't even retrograde yet. Right. But we bought the thing, brought it home, turned on the music in it, and you have speakers that you can listen to inside, outside, or both. And they were cross-wired. We had to take it back immediately and have the wires fixed. They were crossed. Right?
Well, I noticed we call Mercury the trickster. So
totally,
if you can look at it that way, when you're looking back on Mercury happenings, Mercury retrograde happenings, they do make you laugh.
They do.
You do some silly things that you don't know why you did. And why didn't I think of that? It's just, he's a trickster.
And you spend all this money on something and you're like so excited and you find out something's wrong, you can get really ticked off, right? Yeah, and then you're like, oh my gosh, it's Mercury retrograde. It's like, right. Haha, of course, right. It got us. But, it's minor. You go get it fixed and you move on, right?
But let's talk about Mercury retrograde is one thing, but it happens several times a year, yes. And it's only for a couple of weeks. But let's talk about longer transits.
Yes.
And I'll give you an example. My grandson was 17 last year. Mm. And I noticed he was going to get a Uranus transit across his ascendant, his north node, and his sun. Mm. Now, I'm saying to myself, okay, what is this going to mean? I said, well, he's growing and he's now a teenager. He's got a whole year of it going back and forth across that, and what does it mean? It means a disruption, but we're looking at the sun and he's at that age where the ego is really being structured. Mm-hmm. And now is the time to get rid of stuff and put in new stuff. So he loves to play baseball and he was having problems with his performance anxiety. So one of the things we did is we found a hypnotist that worked with kids with performance anxiety.
Wow.
And I told him what the year was going to be about, finding yourself, who you really are, what you really want to do, because it's the first house, it's your body, it's yourself, it's your ego, it's everything. So it's also keyed into his destiny because it was the North Node. Mm-hmm. Well, that made a tremendous amount of difference. So it was quite a productive year for him in terms of, also think about the brain too. He had his first nodal return. He just turned 18.
Wow,
so
that's awesome.
That fits right in it. And I said, you're getting it early in life, which is even better, to know who you are at 18, who you really are, your authentic self.
Yeah.
That's very positive. So,
wow, how lucky he is to have you, and to be able to know that and to help him through it. And, you took this Uranian approach. Let's take you to a hypnotist, right? A hypnotherapist. So what a great, unconventional approach that really shifted things for him in a powerful way. And yeah, retrogrades, it was like, okay, we're going to go back and we're going to figure this out. We're going to dive deep in and look within, and it's going to really help you come into your own in a whole new way.
It's recognizing what the energy is of the planet. Like Uranus is disruption, but what does that mean if it's your sun? It means your identity. Your first house, your identity. Yeah. And he's right in that period of what Erickson would call identity crisis, the teenage years. And so it means change. And I said, you're going to feel nervous this year. I said, because things are going to change. You're moving towards your 18th birthday, and you'll know more at the end of the year what you really want to do and who you really are.
That's great. So
yeah,
true.
So we have to look at the energy of the planet that's doing the transiting.
Yeah. And then I think where it's happening too.
Where it's happening, yes.
That's really important, because not every area of your life is going to be up for review. Maybe not, something's not going to maybe be delayed or challenged in every area, but in a particular spot and what it might be triggering in other areas. But I think that's so powerful. That's like, to me, it just gives me chills that you can have that kind of insight, you know, and the difference. I think
also we should mention that, you know, sometimes you're born with something retrograde. Like my last son had a Mars retrograde. Mm-hmm. Well, everybody in the family was so get up and go and competitive, but he was not. But I'll tell you that it was very significant when it turned direct in his chart by progression. That was the year that my husband and I got divorced. And he was freer to express himself because his father was very critical of him. So he freed up a lot of that stuff that was inside, you know.
Yes.
And it really was significant change for him. When a planet either goes direct by progression or goes retrograde, there's usually an important event around that time.
Oh, wow. That's definitely something to go deeper into. That'd be fascinating. Yeah, and important. But I do think that the crux of it is that if you have these planets retrograde, you know, chances are retrograde periods of this particular planet are not going to be as challenging for you, maybe, you know, and definitely people who have Mercury retrograde natally have a leg up because they're like, what's everybody getting upset about? Like, this is a day in the life, right?
That's true. Yeah. Right.
All right. So let's dive into a quick look at hard aspects or planetary placements in the natal chart. And I think, you know, the biggest thing to remember is nothing acts alone. We cannot look at any one thing in isolation in a chart. It's a whole picture. When you say that's like the first and foremost, right?
Right. But when I see a hard aspect, I try to see if there's a sextile to it or a trine to it or something where you have an outlet for that tension.
Right. That's very important to look for.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay.
So that's like your first step. Outlet. Yeah, that would be the first step. Look for the outlet of where this energy can, you know, find its way out or a way to work through. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And reframing the possible manifestations is huge too. You know, again, taking that positive approach, your attitude about it of, okay, maybe this is challenging, you know, but Saturn's involved. Chances are it's a lesson that we need to learn. We're here to learn, you know, and that ultimately is going to be part of how we master this life, how we step up and we mature and grow and become, you know, responsible, self-sufficient, successful. You know, Saturn's very important. It's another poor planet that gets a bad rap, you know?
Well, it does get a bad rap because what it reminds you is, okay, you get a Saturn conjunction and then later you get a Saturn square. Okay, well, you know, am I reaping or harvesting? You know, I was supposed to learn this. Did I do it? Did I learn it? Did I change things correctly and build a new structure, a healthier structure? So it's always there to teach us something.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to figure out what it is and do it. And because if you don't do it, the next Saturn aspect is going to say, you didn't do it. And so now you're going to have some more difficulty until you get it right.
Exactly. I always say Saturn can be a stumbling block or a stepping stone based on your
That's
choice.
A good way to put it. Yes.
Right? Like this is a chance for me to learn something and grow, pass a test. And when we take a test and we pass at one level, we get to go to the next one. Right. And if we don't do well on that test, chances are we're going to have to repeat a few lessons or go back and learn a few things. And then we get a chance to be tested again. And
yes, if you find yourself having the same experience over and over and over again, it means that you're expected to change that somehow,
Right.
It's like, what is that old Chinese saying about, you do me wrong once, I forgive, but the second time,
It's on me. Yep.
it's on me.
Yep. Shame on me. Exactly. It's so true.
So that's what Saturn says.
Yeah, absolutely. And also remembering that the soul, again, is on its own journey,
Yes.
that it is a journey and it's beyond our full comprehension. Really.
It is. We don't see the whole picture.
We don't see the whole
I
picture.
remember Mom said in one of his books about, he told this guy here was a piece of Persian rug and said, if you understand this piece of Persian rug, you'll understand life. And it took him a while, but he finally figured out that the Persian rug was a pattern of all of these beautiful colors. And he said, and every life is important, even if it's just in the background.
Yeah.
This could be a flower or a leaf or be very colorful, but then the background is important too. So we all have something to do with that. We're connected in the whole tapestry of life.
So true. So beautiful. Absolutely. So I think that the main two options in those hard aspects is, if you don't like what you hear, you can't find a positive outlet or way to reframe it, drop it, move on. Don't belabor, don't hold on, let it go. And if you really can't, and you really need to have some resolution for yourself, seek help, someone who knows a little more than you, a professional astrologer, someone that can help give you a bigger picture of that transit and help you reflect a little bit on your own life or your own experience and why you're even afraid, where the fear is really even coming from in the
because
concern.
we don't always look at all the things, because if you're looking, let's say a square, a planet square Mars, what house does Saturn rule? What house does Mars rule? Are they in weak signs or good signs? They're, if Capricorn, Saturn is in Capricorn, he's in his own dignity, so that makes him strong. Okay, so there's so many things to look at that you probably can't see them all yourself.
Right.
You might need help in understanding it.
Yeah, but I think
very true.
The basic thing to remember is know that it doesn't have to be this horrible negative manifestation that you might be reading about. Like, it absolutely doesn't have to be that. There's always a different perspective. And it's important to get that if you're triggered by looking at something negative or reading about something that is expressed as negative or dark or,
Right. And I also think we need to have a recognition that I don't understand why this is happening, but it's happening for a reason that I'll know somewhere down the line.
Trusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so navigating any tough transit, as a parent in your own chart or, person in your own chart, as a parent looking at your kid's chart, always remember, to that point that you just said, is it's for our development. It's ultimately for our development and our growth. And that is, again, it takes adjusting our expectations and our attitude and our approach to dealing with when we see that coming, and I'll tell you about a story about a tough transit that came to me when I was thinking about this. And I had Saturn in transiting my fifth house of children in Scorpio when I was trying to have a second child. And as an astrologer, I kept looking at it and saying, oh my gosh, Scorpio rules death and challenges is Saturn. And I have a feeling this is going to be a tough situation. And I've done some research. I even got a reading from someone else. And she said, oh, you're going to conceive. You're going to conceive. And we talked about Jupiter being part of conception and some research that involved Jupiter. I thought that was fascinating. And Jupiter was, I think, going over my ascendant. I think it was in Cancer at the time or something. And that was like, oh, okay, I can see where the positive view and perspective of Jupiter and Cancer over the ascendant that I would get pregnant. But I kept thinking instinctually, but I don't know if it'll be a viable pregnancy because I had already miscarried prior. right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and I said to myself, okay, look, here's the reality. I have this information and I know it could very well happen and it could not be successful. But I feel that ultimately I have to try because my heart wants to.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to know that on the other side of it, perhaps this journey is what I have to go through in order to understand and mature through the process of knowing that I'll possibly only be able to have one child. And that on the other side of that, I will be more mature. I will have felt that I had done everything I could, or that I could reconcile that journey, and then put all my focus into being an awesome parent to one child.
That because was your destiny, right? And then just think about if you'd had 2 or 3 more.
Yeah.
Could you be doing all the things that you're doing?
Right. Exactly. And that's what I always said was well, first of all, they say God only gives you what you can handle. And I thought, oh, wow, he doesn't think I can handle it. and I was like, oh, man. But I ended up getting pregnant. I did conceive, and I did end up losing the pregnancy. So my instincts were correct. But I wouldn't have done it any different. And I can't imagine having done it any different. And I do recognize, and I did recognize on the other side of that pain and that time of challenge, was that this does afford me free time to really put into something that's very important to me and that I am passionate about. And that is this, right?
Yes. And helping parents raise healthy children. Yes.
Yes. And that I have only this experience with this one, but my knowledge and my experience and my own maturity, I have that to offer, and so I realized, yes, I do have the support of my husband, and I only have one child, not that that's not a lot, but one child to contend with. And I do have the freedom now to pursue something that is very important to me, but it was an entire process.
And you're not adding to the overpopulation of the world.
And there's that, maybe, right? That's another way of looking at it. Glass half full.
Oh, I want to mention one thing about hard aspects. Okay. For instance, I have Saturn square Uranus. Mm-hmm. Okay. You have to think about those energies. Okay. One is structured, discipline, and Uranus is the disruptor. And that's very much a part of my life. But I didn't understand it. Okay. Because Saturn is the authority. You must do this. You should be on a diet. You should be on an exercise plan, blah, blah, blah. And then you go on one, and about 2 or 3 weeks later, Uranus pops up and says, the heck with this. You're not having any fun. So I had to learn, instead of them being competitors, was to balance them. And this is where polarities come in too. You have to think about polarities, how we have to balance. We have to balance these things. So I said to me, okay, the way I work is I can work for so long, but then I need to take Uranus and say, I need to have some fun. Yeah. So I have to balance those two. So because what happened before is like I go on a diet for 2 or 3 weeks and then give it up entirely. Mm-hmm. So I had to learn that, okay, I could diet for so long, and then I could only maybe on a weekend have one day where I could eat something fun. Okay. So I had to learn to balance both of these energies at the same time. Yeah. And that's what we do when we look at heavy squares. Squares are important to understand that they're a challenge. And how can we balance this? Yes. Very important.
Absolutely. So yeah, when you see the transit coming, I think it's important to adjust your expectations, use what you do know, prepare by, checking to see where and how you may be affected directly. Not every transit is going to affect you. Right.
Right.
That's why that person
sometimes said, you're sitting there shrugging and saying, oh, this is going to be terrible. And it turns out to be nothing.
Right. Exactly. So it's really important to know.
And the universe says, I gotcha.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, find out, like, is this going to even affect me? Do I need to even put this on my, on my brain or my heart, and then make a choice. If it is something you know is going to be affecting you and you have a lot going on in your life at the time, consciously make a choice about your approach to it and how you're going to navigate it, live your life and pay attention and have grace and compassion for yourself and inform people of what you might be going through or feeling so that they know how to respond as you move through this. A lot of people I know going through like Uranus opposition now. It's a huge transit, midlife crisis transit, where you can inform your partner, your people, you're going through some stuff and have some compassion for the changes that are happening within you. You're liable to not destroy other things in your life or blow up relationships or,
that's what Uranus says, change,
yes,
or I'll change it for you.
Exactly.
And that won't be easy.
Exactly. So it's like, embrace it, so like while you're in it, don't resist it. Like they say, what resists persists. Recognize that something needs to change, look and seek ways of making those changes. And again, having that compassion as you're moving through, the various degrees. And then after, you can have, like you said, that reflection of like, what did I learn from this experience? How did I handle it? And what is my way forward from here with what I've just experienced and now I know.
That's the whole process of life. It's called individuation.
Yep.
We start as a child and we develop a persona in reflection to how parents treat us, what they tell us about ourselves, and we believe them. And then later on in the teenage years, when the brain starts changing, we have an opportunity to say, that's not really me. I'm not that way. I'm this way. We have so many kids have been rescued in their teenage years.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about the pressure that they're under, especially today, but suddenly somebody comes up, a principal or your minister or coach or somebody who's there to help you through that and find out who you really are. So it's we're constantly moving ahead in the chart. So
yes,
we can't stand still. No matter what we do, we can't stay still.
And if all else fails, you can surrender and say, this too shall pass, because it will.
That's a good one. Yes.
Yes. It will,
It will pass. Yeah, you need a ring for that. This too shall pass. Yes. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've given our audience sort of a taste of, a better perspective and approach you could potentially take to navigate these things. And I mean, we would love to hear your thoughts, on retrogrades and hard transits. If you have questions about a particular transit that you have or your child has, even something that you wrestle with, drop us a line on my website, nurturingastrology.com. There is, under the contacts, a submission form to send in some questions or some reflections, and we can answer them.
If you're worried about a hard aspect in your child's chart, we could take a look at it. If you send us the birth data, and we can take a look at it and say, well, there's other things happening at the same time. So if you have a question about something like that,
submit that, and we will, anonymously, we're going to do a Q&A each month where we answer some of the questions that have been submitted, and we'll do it in an anonymous way and give the information away that everybody can benefit from, so that there's privacy and safety in that. I want people to feel safe to share their questions and know that we'll honor and respect them, and share, some thoughts and insights we have to help you out. But if you have other questions about navigating hard transits or retrogrades, and you'd like us to go deeper into this topic, let us know. We wanted to give you some basics and some overview. And remember, the 3 keys are expectations, attitude, and approach. They can make all the difference in the process of navigating and reframing these retrogrades and tough transits. So Thanks again, Cornelia. This was a lot of fun. I can't wait for the next one. And stay tuned for more. Hopefully all of you are enjoying this as well. And, let us know what you'd love us to go deeper into, because we could keep going for hours, but we're going to keep it as short and sweet so that you can get on with your lovely days. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.